Hi, we're here today to read Chapter 2 of The Thief of Always. We are going to read the chapter called The Hidden Way. Harvey said nothing about his peculiar visitor to either his mom or his dad in case they put locks on the window to stop Rictus from returning to the house. But the trouble with keeping the visit a secret was that after a few days, Harvey began to wonder if he'd imagined the whole thing. Perhaps he'd fallen asleep at the window, he thought, and Rictus had simply been a dream. He kept hoping, nevertheless. Watch for me, Rictus had said, and Harvey did just that. He watched from the window of his room. He watched from his desk at school. He even watched with one eye when he was lying on his pillow at night. But Rictus didn't show. And then, about a week after the first visit, just as Harvey's hopes were waning and his watchfulness was rewarded, on his way to school one foggy morning he heard a voice above his head, and he looked up to see Rictus floating down from the clouds. His coat swelled up around him, and he looked fatter than a prize pig. "How you doin'?" he said in a descended voice. "I was starting to think I'd invented you," Harvey replied. "You know, like a dream." "I get that a lot," Rictus said, his smile wider than ever, particularly from the ladies. "You're a dream come true, they say." He winked. "And who am I to argue? You like my shoes?" Harvey looked down at Rictus's bright blue shoes. They were quite a sight, and he said so. "I got given 'em by my boss," Rictus said. "He's very happy you're coming to visit." "So are you ready?" "Well, it's no use wasting time," Rictus said. "There may not be room for you tomorrow." "Can I just ask one question?" "I thought we agreed." "I know, but just one." "All right, one." "Is this place far from here?" "Nah, it's just across town." "So I'd only be missing a couple hours of school?" "That's two questions," Rictus said. "No, I'm just thinking out loud." Rictus grunted. "Look," he said, "I'm not here to do a great song and dance persuading you. I got a friend called Jive does that. I'm just a smiler. I smile and I say, come with me to the holiday house, and if the folks don't want to come," he shrugged, "hey, that's their hard luck." With that, he turned his back to Harvey. "Wait!" Harvey protested. "I want to come, but just for a little while." "You can stay as long as you like," Rictus said, "or as little. All I want to do is take that glum expression off your face and put on one of these." His grin grew even larger. "Is there any crime in that?" "No," said Harvey, "that's no crime. I'm glad you found me. I really am." So what if I missed all the morning at school, he thought. It'd be no great loss. Maybe an hour or two in the afternoon as well. As long as he was back home by 3 or 4, certainly before dark. "I'm ready to go," he said to Rictus. "Lead the way." Millsap, the town in which Harvey had lived all his life, wasn't very big, and he thought he had just seen about all of it over the years. But the streets he knew were soon behind him, and though Rictus was setting a fair speed, Harvey made sure he kept a mental list of the landmarks along the way in case he had to find his own way home on his way home on his own. A butcher's shop with 2 pigs' heads hanging from the hooks, a church with a yard full of tombs beside it, the statue of some dead general covered from hat to stirrups in pigeon dung. All these sights and more he noted as he filed them away. And while they walked, Rictus kept up the stream of idle chatter. "I hate the fog, just hate it," he said. "And there'll be rain by noon. We'll be out of it, of course." He went on from talk of rain to state of the streets. "Look at all this trash all over the sidewalk. It's shameful. And the mud, it's making a fine old mess of my shoes." He had plenty more to say, but none of it was very enlightening, so after a while, Harvey gave up listening. How far was this holiday house, he began to wonder. The fog was chilling him, and his legs were aching. If they didn't get there soon, he was going to turn back. "I know what you're thinking," said Rictus. "I bet you don't. You're thinking this is all a trick. You're thinking Rictus is leading you on a mystery tour and there's nothing at the end of it. Isn't that true?" "Maybe a little. Well, boy, I've got news for you. Look ahead." He pointed up there, not very far from where they stood. was a high wall which was so long that it disappeared into the fog right and left. "What do you see?" Rickus asked him. "A wall," Harvey replied. Though and more he stared at it, the less certain of it he was. The stones, which seemed solid at first, now seemed to be shifting and wavering as though they'd been chiseled from the fog itself and piled up here to keep out prying eyes. "It looks like a wall," Harvey said, "but it's not a wall." "You're very observant," Rickus replied admiringly. "Most people see a dead end, so they turn around and take another street. But not us. No, not us. We're going to keep on walking. You know why?" "Because the holiday house is on the other side?" "What a miraculous kid you are," Rickus replied. "That's exactly right. Are you hungry, by the way?" "Starving. There's a woman waiting for you in the house called Mrs. Griffin. Let me tell you, she is the greatest cook in all of America land. I swear on my tailor's grave. Anything you can dream of eating, she can cook it. All you have to do is ask. Her deviled eggs..." He smacked his lips. "Perfection." "I don't see a gate," Harvey said. "That's because there isn't one." "So how do we get in?" "Just keep walking." Half out of hunger and half out of curiosity, Harvey did as Rickus instructed, and he came within 3 steps of the wall. A gust of balmy, flower-scented wind slipped between the shimmering stones and kissed his cheek. Its warmth was welcomed after the long, cold trek, and he picked up his pace, reaching out to touch the wall as he approached it. The misty stones seemed to reach out for him in their turn, wrapping their soft, gray arms around his shoulders and ushering him through the wall. He looked back, but the streets he stepped out of, with the gray sidewalks and gray clouds, had already disappeared. Beneath his feet, the grass was high and full of flowers. Above his head, the sky was midsummer blue, and ahead of him, set at the summit of the great slope, was a house that had surely been first imagined in a dream. He didn't wait to see if Rickus was coming after him, nor to wonder how the gray beast February had been slain on this warm day, risen into its place. He simply let out a laugh that Rickus would have been proud of, and he hurried up the slope and into the shadow of the dream house. And this is where we leave off, starting chapter 3. Thanks.